land. From the beginning of time, reaching out to the sublime, in a cold and hostile world, we have struggled to exist in this earthly wilderness, seeking an elusive goal. Many times it seemed that we are fighting a hopeless cause, implying extinction as our lot, because we were constantly ravaged by scourges and wars. We gripe, we quarrel and complain, but in the ending up, believe it or not, we will survive. No matter what the odds, man will survive. Inspired by our gods. It's a hard road we travel, but with triumph we shall. We gon' toil, we gon' struggle, cause at the end of it all, whether you're big or small, Peter helping Paul, till the master call, we fight for survival. Oh, yeah. In pursuit of happiness, searching for material bliss, we have toiled unceasingly, giving off our very best. In this never-ending quest, we have sought increasingly. Disappointed by our friends and betrayed by conjugal mates, surrounded by crime of every sort. Ruin will never end, and for us is a test of faith, emphasized by condemnation, penalized with retribution, but we will survive. Don't care what people say, I'm telling you, man will survive to see yet a brighter day. There's a mountain we're climbing, some will rise, some will fall. They'll be slipping and sliding, cause at the back of it all, metaphysical, deep and spiritual, till the master call, we fight for survival. Whoa, yeah. Modern day societies, melting pot communities, there are several rules and laws, where the poor become subservient to the rich and affluent, or they show their fangs and claws. Divided by creed and race, it ain't easy to be free. No one knows for sure if we really can. can never find an equal place and live as one family. Sometimes it's hard to find solution, but nothing conquers the will of man. We will survive. Though times may be rough, man will survive. We know how to be tough, so let nothing divide we. All for one, one for all. Feel the power and the glory, cause at the back of it all. Though we whine and ball, broken down dance hall, till the master call, we fight for survival. Whoa, yeah. Ba-da-ba-da-da-da-da. Hey, 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 yeah. Ba-da-ba-da-da. Do 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 ba. Do do ba ba da ba. Fire, fire. Fight for survival. Coming through the dark ages, looked upon as savages, haunted by unrighteousness. Time and place and circumstance, and some people's ignorance, we have to face all kind of prejudice. Subjected to slavery, bound by economic chains, quick to hold but slow to develop. Daunted by redundancy, plagued by emotional pains. Still for all we wouldn't stop. Cry surrender or give it up, no. We will survive as we have throughout the years. And we'll survive through pain, sorrow and tears, to ensure our existence, to walk proud, to stand tall, yet to humble in his presence, cause at the back of it all, though we whine and ball, breaking down dance hall, till the master call, we fight for survival.
Oh yes, the greatest of them all, Slinger Francisco, the mighty sparrow, giving us some optimism. We shall survive. Man shall survive. We have survived all kinds of atrocities and obstacles, and we're still here to tell the story. The Calypsonian there, of course, always speaking for us. The mighty sparrow, you know, they say when God was giving Calypsonian gifts, he gave all the Calypsonians one or two gifts, but he gives Sparrow all of them. Certainly the greatest of them all. Good evening and welcome to Politics 101 tonight. Dr. Henry Jeffrey is here. Our topic tonight, of course, is empty victory. Empty Victory. That was the title of Dr. Jeffrey's column this past weekend in the Village Voice. Empty Victory. And of course, he was referring to the local government victory that the PPP declared. And he had quite a lot to say in that column. Here it is. The Pharaoh's Empty Victory. The Pharaoh's Empty Victory, Dr. Henry Jeffrey, commenting on the recent local government elections. Of course, people are asking, is there something for the opposition to celebrate? Did the PPP make inroads? All kinds of questions the pundits and others have been asking. Well, we'll get to Jeffrey's take on it tonight, and he's saying it's an empty victory. Please share the link and let everyone know that we're on tonight on Tuesday night. Of course, we're still reeling from the revelations that a minister of government has been accused of allegedly raping a child, and he turned himself into the police yesterday. They arrested him. They gave him $1 million bail. He went home and slept last night, and he went back today, and they questioned him, and he will go home and sleep tonight, and so forth. And lots of you have been commenting on that. Nigel Hughes is lead attorney, and people have been asking all kinds of questions about that. I've been trying to all day to see if I can get a lawyer to come on, but tomorrow night we're going to have some women on who are going to come in on that issue. Last night we had an all-male cast, but tonight we're going to be talking about those local government elections. As we speak, GCOM has not made an official announcement. Are they waiting for 5 months? We shall see. We shall see. Let me bring in Dr. Jeffrey. Dr. Jeffrey, good evening.
Good evening, David. How are you?
I am surviving, as Sparrow said. We shall survive, man shall survive. Against all the odds, and we in Guyana, we are never out of it. Your column this past weekend, the Pharaoh's empty victory. You framed it with an old story. Start off by telling us that story, the Pharaoh story, and then we'll take it from there.
Well, it is a situation in which the Pharaoh was attempting to take the Hittite city of Kadesh, and the point I was trying to make was that was his major goal, and he moved towards that goal. The Hittite city was in western Syria, and he was going towards that goal. But on the way there, he ran into he captured a few Hittite, what he considered spies. And after torturing them and all of that, they gave him some information, which they intended to give him. So they gave him false information. And so the Pharaoh got really excited, and he left most of his army aside. And he went with 20,000 men towards the Hittite. But he ran into 40,000. And he was beaten. He was beaten. But again, as things turn out, the Hittites now believe that they have won the war. They start plundering the soldiers and so on the field. And the result was that his main army came up. But the war went on, the fight continues, but he couldn't take Kadesh. And maybe it's the first peace treaty of that side was signed. And my contention was that the PPP is not really a political party caring anything about local government. The PPP main aim in this thing in the last election was to show that they show to the world, because they are under pressure from people all over the place. We are a multi-ethnic party. They're still saying it. And that they can take the African heartlands from the PNC. That was their main intent. And they went there and they do so many things. They do all sorts of what I will call illegal and undemocratic, immoral things, trying that can get families and all sorts of people in all kinds of problems. But they went forward and did these things, trying to buy votes, all manner of things. Now they're taking back some of those. Those are undemocratic things. The things they have done to try to do what they were trying to do, even if they had succeeded, they would not have succeeded, in the sense that no democratic country would allow that you can do what you have done to win people and win them and then come and tell us you are a multi-ethnic society. But it did not have to come to that. As it turned out, the PNC, as I also said there, it wasn't even the full PNC, because they themselves keep saying that the PNC is disjointed, united, Mr. Norton is nobody, he's all that. But as I said, he stood strong. He do what he knows to do, essentially, is to play the ground and the ground rules and go on. And the PPP was totally diminished in that effort. Totally diminished. I can't think they have won a single huge African community. Indeed, the people took back Buxton. The PNC took back Buxton Falls. So that was what I meant when I said it's an empty victory. Yes, they went and 60-something seats and all that of thing. The PNC wasn't going there. They even did not want to go to the elections. If you remember, they were arguing that the list need to change. You need biometrics, and they wouldn't go. I think your party, David, determined that it will not go, and it would make another call on the streets, and you have been doing that. So the PNC was not particularly interested in winning election. But as I said also of the Pharaoh, once he got back now, he has lost so many men. He's got back to Egypt. Well, what would he do? Maybe it's the first huge propaganda campaign to prove to people. He has put up proclamations all over the country that he has won the war. And that's what's happening in Guyana. The PPP did not go to win elections. They got all the seats. They got more power as a central government than I think ever existed. So they don't need really to win elections to do what they want. They're a Marxist-Leninist party. They're not into local democracy. They never had any local democracy of any meaningful way in the Soviet Union and those places. The Communist Party always centralized. They were the focus of centralized power in the Soviet Union, apartheid or whatsoever they call it. So essentially, that's the point I was trying to make. David, you're still there?
Yeah. I let me quote from you here. You said the PPP has never valued local democracy. It is an ideologically centralist party. It did not hold local government elections for about 2 decades of its previous 23 years in government. It has destroyed even the paltry degree of the separation of powers from the Westminster political system. It has de facto control over the local government commission and the appointment of the regional executive officers. And you went on to elaborate there. You're making the point here that in a systemic way, the PPP already has control of the central government
and local government.
And local government. And so, insofar as it was going after these so-called strongholds of the opposition, it had another motive. And that motive, you said, was to capture the African Guyanese communities. Elaborate.
Well, yes, of course. I said also there, if you had continued, that the PPP is being told by all and sons, right, that, listen, man, for the most part, you are essentially an ethnic political party. That's where you get your vote from. You got your vote from one ethnicity, just like the PNC. You are not a multi-ethnic party in any meaningful way. Culturally, you alone can't make something. Even the president of Ghana or even the general secretary, he can't make the PPP a multi-ethnic party. If he leaves the party tomorrow and run by himself, he might get a vote. The essential point is that the party that carries this legacy of being an ethnic party, he can try as much as he likes. Structurally, it becomes so because the people at the top has to be and are essentially of one ethnicity. People that actually rule, don't one or two the ministers here and there and so on. They got no real power. The people that actually make the basic decisions are essentially Indian people, a couple of them and essentially then you got from the actual activity of politics. If my people are voting for me all the time, if I know that I am here largely, not only, but largely because of African people or Indian people, when I'm in power, I have to look after them or else I'll be there no more. I have to take care of them. That's the nature of comparative politics and competitive politics. So effectively, that is what they wanted to demonstrate. But what they're trying to demonstrate, they're trying to demonstrate it by numbers. Oh, we want some people, we want some Africans, and now we got a lot of Africans. But don't make you multi-ethnic party. Is who make the decisions in a party that matter. The smallest child should know that. You can get all some struggling Africans and so on and get a couple thousand of them, but they ain't got no decision-making power. So you can't really go and talk to anybody and say, oh, or any sensible person, tell them, I am now a multi-ethnic political. It's like the PNC can't tell nobody seriously it's a multi-ethnic political party. So effectively, that is what they think. They think by them getting some numbers, they're going to go and say, oh, we are now multi-ethnic. We have black people in the party. But in that count, they might always have been, as both of them were saying, they've always had African people, and it's largely because of the nature of the Westminster political system that you got win majoritarian election. When the PPP had, the majority didn't have to worry, but now what is 40%, around 40%. So effectively, it got a problem. So that's where I was.
Let me read a line here for the viewers. The elections then were in essence a battle for the African political heartlands. And then you follow that by saying Norton played the ground game he knows well. And even with a disjointed party, stymied the PPP's advance. Let's take the first sentence there. The election then were in essence a battle for the African political heartlands. Take us behind the text.
Well, essentially, I mean, David, from what I have said, the PPP set out from day one. That was its Kadesh. His Kadesh wasn't to win the Indians areas all over the place. Up to now, when you have the General Secretary he speaks about, oh, we are multi-ethnic party. But at least, you gotta give him, he took the fact that he has been diminished there. And now he's saying, I'll work with you. I'll work with you. I said that in there too. He's saying, I'll work with you, but you gotta be very careful that I work to do what? By nature, these are centralistic kind of arrangement. And then the next thing you hear them saying, I'll work with you, and you're the president now, not Barack. You're the president saying, we are going to have what he calls them communities, some kind of community integration. It sounds like assimilation. Yeah. I don't think these people are quite clear about what they're doing. What you want any community? Look, man, BV is in two parts. BV Trump got a lot of Indians, BV got a lot of black. They are living happy. What you want with community integration? I think what the problem they face now is that they have some African people that they've been messing around with in these areas, and now that they have lost them, they are looking for ways to try to support them. And he talks about things without seeing the bigger implication. If people want to vote for their ethnicity, let them vote for their ethnicity. They will come to learn to live together, and gradually things will happen, but let them do so. It's the political system that must change to take that into play. Not you trying now to force Indians to love blacks and blacks to love Indians and all this. Community integration, which is a kind of assimilation. We are indeed in a multi-ethnicity nowadays, the entire society. It's more difficult society to manage. Whether or not, if you got a homogeneous society, it is less difficult to manage because all of more you are thing. But most countries are in the world today are more immigrants and all of that. They're multi-ethnic in a sense, but maybe for instance, Britain, 80% of the people are still white, but you got 20% of people down there that are working in all sorts of areas. And they are the ones the ones I know that first came up and did what they call an ethnic disparity analysis to say, well, 20% of people in our time are a lot of people. They can cause a lot of confusion. 10 people can cause a lot of confusion with the amount of technology we have nowadays. 20% they can cause confusion. So here what are we going to do? They got a part in government, but they are still small, so they can't take over. So in every British government, conservative, all of them, you see black people and Indian people and so on. You got to have them. They are still small. They're only 80%. And more or less, when they're working outside, they're on the streets, you have to see that they are not discriminated against. And therefore, they set up this ethnic disparity analysis. 2017, you ask this government here, they said everything you say about Africans are wrong. Everything. You say they get less contracts, you say they are keeping the wages low, you say they're not getting any the proper grants from forestry and all. You're saying all wrong. Yeah. the issue, what is it to say, if you are proper government and really wants to drive this country towards one Guyana, what is it for you to not do this ethnic disparity analysis and then let us set up things to deal with it? Because some of these things can happen because you don't really know what you're doing. To be truthful, disparities can exist sometimes and maintain themselves structurally because really you're not certain what you're doing. Look at the school grant thing. School grant. Well, though the PPP gave school grant. Long before the PPP, we were working with school grants, myself and Bibi Shadiq, because remember, she used to do social thing, and we came up to this thing. It started in Brazil, Bolsa something, and Jamaica has it.
Yes,
but
Jamaica does have it, yes.
Yeah, we said, hey, what's going to happen? To get this grant, how much it is, we don't know. Now we have money. It doesn't matter how much it is. But to get this grant, you got to demonstrate that these children are going to school. This is nothing for you to go around and write them and give people to just say, take $40,000, go and drink if you want, and it's to help people go to school. You got to show us what's the outcome from this you have been doing for so long. As the school population increased, as truancy rate fallen, nothing this necessarily happened. We don't know because that's not their intent. They just started at the election time and went on. Well, don't worry about the coalition and that. That was a disaster. They just take it off. They just took it up with some sort of utopian notion. They can make the school system good for everybody. I mean, something, it's not with a bad notion, but you got people now living. When you gonna finish making this school system finish for everybody? When? No, 2 decades, when? But right now, children are out there that need to go to school, and you got to do things. In that sense, the grant is not a bad thing. But the way you're doing it, you don't know if children are really going to school. You don't know which race, I think is African race, that don't have the backup system, and their children are not going to school more than Indian children. So you can get up and say, oh, the PPP are doing that because they know it's African children. I am not certain about that. They might not just know, just like this lot who took it off altogether and said it will come some other time. So effectively, that kind of thing. And when you do an analysis, when you do an ethnic analysis and you see the disparities, you can put in place things to deal with it. But the PPP, in my view, and my long looking at this issue, is that they don't want to solve this issue. The more Black people are under pressure, the more they are likely to join the PPP. And we have seen it here right now. If you're under pressure, if you're well off, if this oil economy has given us some sort of floor, the United Nations says, development goals says that nobody should go to sleep without a floor, an economic floor, depending on the country and what it can afford. We call it universal basic income. Yeah. I spoke of it, Clive spoke of it. Give some people universal basic income. Again, you got the other side saying, people ain't got to work. This is like the bonds, your party, your group. People ain't got to work. This thing is laughable. This is the United Nations. You think these people can take all that into consideration? So you need to give people a floor so that nobody will be starving when they go to sleep in the night. You might crime might fall, all sort of things can happen as a result. We are not doing that. We're not thinking about doing that. Both parties seem to think, if you give people a floor, this is not giving them any money to drive car or even get proper bicycle. It's all you're saying. When they're going to sleep, they must get a house and a thing, and we must try and provide that. The UN said that. You think that they said it without thinking? Or you come up with nonsense about the people who are not going to work and they're not. You think they'll give anybody money? They're all capitalist country. They will give money to any country that now work. So effectively, that kind of thing, and yet the PPP don't want to do it.
Right.
The PPP don't want to. The UN, and now the anniversary for African people determined that it must happen, and they will have to do it. The international decade, it's on the agenda, and they call upon all countries to do it and be responsible for seeing that there equitability in their country. I think that is something all of us must press for. All of us, every single African must press for, regardless of what we think of the political system. Because myself and you might not agree with the political system, but the time they are taking to sort that out, ordinary people going poor on the streets. And we can do that and stop that poverty immediately. So essentially, that is what we, when the PPP said that, oh, we're going to work with you, well, that is where you come and work with me with it. Do an ethnic analysis, disparity, or whatever you want, call it audit, call whatsoever, and then implement that. Implement it, do it inclusively, and implement it so that African people will equalize in terms, not only in income, but in business and everything over time. We can measure it. Just don't come and throw money and say, oh, we are doing small businesses. What is that? What is that? If I don't know anything about business, you can do all this small business. You won't even give me a loan. If I take a loan, I might just go and do stupid. I mightn't drink it or anything, but I might do nonsense. To deal with people in a situation like that, as they have done in Kajai, Spain, you got get great backup mechanisms. It's not just only financing, but you have to have people there, to help the business as it goes on, to monitor it and teach the people how to grow with the business and all of that. And today, Kaja must be one of the biggest industrial companies. It starts somewhere in the 1940s in Spain. Mm-hmm. So what I'm saying to you is that we have this opportunity. We do have the opportunity now without our thing to change the political system, although that is essential if anybody want Guyana. But we have an opportunity today, and it's backed by United Nations Cloud, for us to make equitability feasible and possible. And now that we have all this money in Guyana, we have a lot. I mean, we are still quarreling for more, but my focus is not really on the more we have not gotten. Is the equitable distribution of what there is. So
equitable. Yes, equitable. Let me throw this at you. The PPP and even some of their detractors have said, well, the people make inroads. And that thing puzzled me. And I decided, I took Linden. The last local government election, they got 400 votes. And this time they get 2,000 votes. And they claim that they have increased their votes by 500% and that they've made inroads. I went back to the 2020 election. And the 2020 election showed that they got 2,000 votes in Linden. So in effect, what they did at the local government is get their own votes. And they're calling it inroads.
The red shorts were the same thing. If you go back throughout Region 10, they maybe nearly get 10,000 votes. If you go through, and you will see that. So when they put all the shorts on their people, they come out there and they say, "Oh, big noise." But as I said in that article too, I said, "You don't know what you did. You really don't know what you did with a red short, because people are getting called from all over the world. Black people calling each other, Africans are calling. What's going on? What are you doing? They're even I can't say it. No, but the point is that this thing started. They mobilize support for the other side by doing that. I don't think they intended that. They intended to try to win the other side, but they mobilize support, and people who are getting things from their families are telling them, I hope you don't get nothing involved in that. I ain't sending you nothing more. And so all of that tension they're calling, instead of let people do their things secretly, because the PPP and PNC always used to have secret members, because you don't want to cause family disturbance and all of that sort of thing. If a man want to come with you, if you want to come and he said publicly, let him. But you are now forcing people to do that. It's like Hitler. Hitler used to make the Jews wear a star. You know, thousands, millions of people pay not to wear that star. Because it's all sort of confusion for them. And when you do that, that's what you're doing. You're putting these people in jeopardy when you need not have. And if they want to vote for you, but no, you believe if some black people see some of them doing it, others going to come and doing it. And that is essentially what happens there. But it's not a good thing. It's not democratic. That's why I said, even before they lost these their main objective, the PPP had already lost the game, because they couldn't come to me and tell me they won anything fairly. You can't take the public person running all over the place doing what you like and come and tell me, you're buying votes. And now I hear they're taking back some.
Yeah. And what you were saying, that I can verify that in Buxton, I go there and people pull me aside and say, well, David, we did there with you, with not participating, but by what we gonna do? And once they say that, I do. And they become, these are people who would embrace our position that, look, this election, they're going to rig it, we ain't going to take part, and so on. And once they saw what the PPP were doing, they pulled me aside. And they said, bye, what we going to do? And I knew what are we going to do? Go and vote, right? So they mobilized those.
Oh, yes. Oh, no doubt about it. Oh, no doubt about it. They mobilize those community terrorists. Are you still there? Hello. We better call it, John. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Bye. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No problem. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good. Bye. There's blackout. David has blackout, so we'll have to go. Good night, all.
We had some blackout for a couple of minutes here. Um, and I notice most of you are still, some of you are still on. Let's see here. Yes, we had blackout and for a few minutes, and some of you are still on. I think Dr. Jeffrey is gone, so we are just going to close off. We're just going to close off the program. So yes, we had blackout for a few minutes. So some of you are still on. Dr. Jeffrey is gone. Dr. Jeffrey's gone, but so we will end off the program. At the time of the blackout, I was making the point about the PPP saying that they made inroads. And when you check it out, at the 2020 election, it was the 2,000 and something votes they got in Linden. So the 2,000 and odd votes that they got here, the local government, are their own votes in Linden. So the whole thing about spinning, about making inroads, and some of our people fell for that. They did not actually make inroads. And as I said, in a place like Georgetown has a fairly large Indian population, and we're assuming that most of our Indian Guyanese brothers and sisters would normally vote for the PPP. And so if you say that you got a couple hundred votes in South Georgetown, you're assuming that in South Ruimveldt, it's only African people live there, but a lot of Indian people live in South Ruimveldt. And even in places like Sophia. I go in Sophia all the time and I see Indian people in Sophia. And so the point is that the inroads that they're really talking about is their own votes. Because when you go back to the general elections, where people come out to vote, the votes that they're claiming in this election are really the votes that they get at general elections. So, as Dr. Jeffrey said, it's an empty victory. You all do have something to celebrate. Dr. Jeffrey made some interesting comments. Let me see if I get him. If he's not gone. Let me see if I get him. Because he made some interesting comments about Aubrey Norton that I wanted to discuss with him. So I'm checking to see if he is, if he's gone. Apparently he is. But he made some interesting comments about Aubrey Norton and the party and so on. You know, he made the point that there might have been some people in the PNC leadership that wanted Norton to fail, but they themselves saw the danger of that if Norton failed, it would be a reflection on all of them. And he said that the late call by former President David Granger may have been a reflection of that, that they came to the realization that regardless of what problems they have internally, that they needed to get on board with the campaign. But Dr. Jeffrey's not here, and I don't want to put words in his mouth. Well, we have noticed what has happened with the Darnell story. We came off air last night and we knew that he turned himself in and that they arrested him. And then they gave him $1 million bail and sent him home. So the man went home to sleep in his own bed. I don't know whether he slept properly, because if you have a charge like that hanging over your head, you are not likely to sleep properly. But the fact of the matter is that he was granted bail. Look at all the other people from the opposition who were charged. They charged them on a Friday. And then keep them overnight. Keep them through the weekend. Didn't grant them bail. So we see special preference here for a member of the political elite. None of the opposition people were given station bail. What he got there is station bail. And so we see the police didn't go out and get him. They didn't put out a wanted bulletin. They may have contacted him and tell him that he should turn himself in, and he did, and it was only then that they arrested him. And then they put him on station bail and tell him he must go back at 8 o'clock this morning. So we see the special preference that is being given to this gentleman as we speak. And so we have seen what's happening here. Now, people have to continue to press this case. Now, I am, as I intimated last night, the individual for me is not what is most important here. Individuals do have flaws. And, if this thing is true, obviously that gentleman needs help. He has a problem. And you're seeing all kinds of things on social media that this may have been a practice. I don't know. But like I said, while the individual is important, I think on these matters, I take attack beyond the individuals. And I think it is the government of Guyana that is guilty if these allegations are true. Because you see, when you create a situation where you have a government and that government is out of control, it feels it can do what it likes. The government is made up of human beings. And the human beings who make up that government feel they can do what they like. That guy did something in our parliament that was never done before. There's always been banter in parliament and people, making comments across the floor and all that kind of stuff. But I have never heard that kind of overt sexual thing about dildo. The speaker did nothing. The leader of the house did nothing. The president did nothing. But if the guy can go in the House of Assembly, the National Assembly, the lawmaking body, and do what he did, said what he said, and got away with it, then obviously he's invincible. He feels he's invincible. So if these accusations are true, it is the government that has to take responsibility above and beyond the individual. Above and beyond the individual. So when you have a government that is not accountable to the country, then this is what you end up with. And they always say that we talk race. That is an Amerindian child. Those people who were killed in that fire are Amerindian children. And the point we who advocate for African Guyanese, I keep saying that, and you all know that that whenever we win for everybody. And so when we advocate for discrimination against Africans, we are in effect also talking about discrimination against Amerindians, because Amerindians are equally discriminated against. We know it's an open secret what coastlanders go into the interior and do to those little Amerindian children. And of course, you hear people say, oh, well, the parents and so on. The fact of the matter is that discrimination against Amerindian children as Amerindians take place. I hear people, people say, well, Indian people are discriminated against, and that's true. East Indian people are discriminated against, the East Indian poor. But they're discriminated against as a class of people, not a race. They're not discriminated against as East Indians. But African and Amerindians are discriminated against both as poor people and as people, Black people and Amerindian people. And that is the point that we make on this program. And they call us racist. No one is denying that people are not discriminated based on their social class. All races. Poor people are discriminated against. But the PPP is not discriminating against Indian people as Indian people. They're discriminated against them as poor people. But if you're Amerindian and you're African, you're discriminated against both as poor people and because of your race. Some person may say, well, Dr. Hines, what nonsense are you talking? Well, the Black middle class is discriminated against. They don't get contracts. They don't get loans in the bank. So if the Black middle class is discriminated, are they discriminated because of their class? No, they're well-to-do people. They're being discriminated against because they're race. The Indian or Portuguese middle class, they get contracts, they get privileges in the society. But that privilege is not afforded to the Black middle class. So the Black middle class, the Black contractor, is not discriminated against because of his race or her race, or class. They're discriminated because of their race. And so racial discrimination is real. It's real. And I hope the Amerindian groups take this issue up. Now you hear some Amerindian leaders on the opposition side are speaking about this problem. We know it's a problem. And we know they prey on those little girls, not just because they're little girls, but because they're little Amerindian girls. And the question of racial discrimination is real. But when you cover it down and you say we don't have any race problem in Guyana, then you make girls like that vulnerable. And so this problem is about Dharam Lal. If he's guilty, we don't know whether he committed the offense. It's alleged. But this problem, yes, it's about him, but it's a larger problem of privilege, a larger problem of race in the society. And that is why I spend a lot of time defending African Guyanese. Because I know of some of that goes on in the African Guyanese community. That young African Guyanese girls are exploited by privileged men of other races because they're Africans. I have a friend who, a couple of years ago, I met him. He had a black girl with him in a nightclub. And I'm not going to call his name because he's very active. And he was telling me, look, I got a black girlfriend. And so you have these Indian, maybe Portuguese men who are going after Amerindian girls or black girls, young black Amerindian girls, or black girls, Amerindian girls, as because of their race. And it's a problem in our society. I heard some civil society groups are saying that we are politicizing this issue. And I have some sympathy with that view. But this man is a political man. This man is a powerful government man. I saw that man deride Nigel Hughes in the worst way. And I have never said it. The person who took my comments when I said I was at Monrepo's market and I saw African people buying black pudding there, and I was amazed because, you know, black pudding is a thing you sell in your community. And there are people who was depending on that for a living. Buy it in your community. And the person that cut and paste my comments is that same boy, Darren Lal. He cut and pasted it and sent it to me in Messenger. And my comments to him were, play my entire speech. That boy, that wicked boy. And as you all know, sir, our people say God not sleep. That chap has hurt so many people from what I'm hearing. And as I said in a comment, if these allegations are true, he was like a ticking bomb waiting to explode. Waiting to explode. And so, yes, we want justice, and we have to fight for it. Justice for this child, justice for all children, all your children, regardless of race. But we also are saying the question of power has to be put on the table. We have to democratize power. We have to democratize power. Once you effect regime change, what you do is you create unaccountable government. That government is saying, we are here because the other side are crooks, and we have the monopoly on power. The PPP has a one-seat majority. Yet they behave as though they got 90% of the votes. I saw in one of the daily newspapers, I think it's Stabroek News today, they're saying if he is on leave as a minister, he will not be able to go to parliament, which means the PPP will have to depend on that small party, they join the party, to get bills through parliament. Because you will now will have 64 parliamentarians instead of 65. The APNU AFC has 31. The PPP will be 33, minus 1 will be 32. The joiner got 1. So if the joiner were to join with the opposition, bills will not be able to pass. The PPP will not be able to pass bills. So they will need they will need the joiners to vote with them. Because a one-seat majority they were given. They were given a one-seat majority. And they're behaving like they have all this power. We're in serious crisis in our country. And some things cannot wait until an election. The question of the safety of our girl children, school children, cannot wait until an election. The question of racial discrimination cannot wait until an election. There are some things that we have to do now. As Dr. Jeffrey argued tonight, and I have been arguing on this program, the local government elections was not about Indians or any other group. It was about Africans. And the whole idea was to buy the loyalty of Africans, to quiet them. If you give them a $40,000, when the opposition go to them and tell them, let's go out on the street and protest, they're likely to say, well, we can't protest, we take these people $40,000. That is what the PPP is after. It is about buying Africans to remain quiet while they continue to dominate this society. And that is why the late swing, especially here on the coast, was so important in keeping the PPP. That's why they lost badly. And all these inroads that they've been talking about are not really inroads. These are votes that they would normally get at general elections. It's a low turnout. So all your people don't go out in a local government election. But when you say, okay, we're making a play to control Georgetown, more of your people will go out and vote. And then you're claiming that those votes comes from the opposition, they come from the opposition. No, it's your people. Because those are votes you would get in the general election. So even the votes that they claim that they've bought, it's not the high volume that they claim. And so in many regards, the opposition has been overestimating what happened. The PPP did not make inroads. They did not make inroads. The votes, the extra votes that they got are the votes that they normally get. And as people will tell you, in a place like Linden, they have a fairly sizable Amerindian population. And my understanding is that those Amerindians, most of them generally vote PPP. So they were fooling us all the time. As people get an opportunity to analyze the figures, we have seen it for what it is. We have seen it for what it is. But this Dharam Lal development, whatever becomes of it, because like I said, we have to assume a man is innocent until proven guilty. Whatever becomes of it, many people feel that he's going to get off. They're going to find some way to force the system. I'm seeing reports that the police, senior police people have been trying to cover up the charges. I saw that report on some one of the news outlets today. So we know that they're going to try to go through the motions. And at the end of the day, they may try to say there's no case against him. As a society, we have to decide whether we're going to accept that or not. But even if that is the outcome, if they manage to cover up the charges, that would not be the equivalent of innocence. Whatever the outcome, we are at a serious place in our country. If ordinary men in the society can look at a minister that these kind of allegations are made against a minister, ordinary men will feel that they can do it too. They can do it too. So there we are, brothers and sisters. There we are, at a very bad place. Tomorrow night, I'm going to have a panel of women. I know Robin Simon is going to be on. I think Amanza Walton is going to be on. So we're going to get a cast of women. I'm trying to get an Amerindian woman to come on. But you know, these programs, people tend to be very careful because, you know, they don't want to be associated too much with radical things. You know, that's the problem we have in our society, that even when people are on our side politically, they sometimes fear their image associating with these programs. But we're going to have Robin Simon, she's booked. Amanza Walton, the series booked. And tomorrow night, we're going to have the women commented from their perspective. So I want to thank you all. Sorry about the couple of minutes blackout. And it cut our program a little. We didn't get Dr. Jeffrey to finish, but we got most of what we wanted. So until tomorrow night, stay well, and remember, I love you all, and the struggle is on. The struggle is on.